This meeting is being recorded.
So thank you, everyone. So each panelist will be asked the same question. Each guest speaker will have 3 to 5 minutes to kind of answer the question and add anything they feel is important. And then after that, we will pass it on to the next speaker. So on this call, we have Antonella, we have Juana, and we have Andre. They will be introducing themselves shortly with the first question, which is introductions. And when you were younger, did you see yourself as career path? Why or why not? Let's go with Antonella, Juana, and then Andre. Please.
Hi, I'm sorry. My dog just chased the cat. Can I go second, please?
Oh, that's fine. No worries. Juana, is it okay if you go first?
Sure. Well, first of all, hello, everybody. Hola a todos. My name is Juana Rosas, and I'm currently working for the Department of Agriculture in a position called, National Partnership Office. But I'm currently in a detail working in the countries of Brazil and the Caribbean. So in the, when I was young, when I was growing up, I did not know this is what I was gonna do. I didn't even know I was gonna be able to even go to school. I come from a really rural town in Mexico, a little village, to put it that way. And, it only went to 6th grade. So, to me, my future at that time, it was more like, oh, well, I'll stay home and, do the usual things that my mother used to do, raise us and raise animals and things like that. So, yeah, so it's definitely, it was a twist of fate for me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Juana, for sharing. Andre, would you like to go next?
Sure. What's up, everybody? My name is Andre Humphrey, and I am the founder of a nonprofit called Inner City Bliss. And we offer trauma-informed yoga and meditation and other holistic wellness practices to cultivate wellness in communities of color. And did I see myself in my career, my current career path? No, I did not. I grew up in the inner city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, which, if you all are not familiar with that area, is located in what we call the Bible Belt of the United States. So growing up, Christianity was the only religious teachings that I had access to in my youth. I didn't understand the concept of meditation and how it could benefit me until I was almost 30 years old. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really thankful for you all inviting me into your space.
Yeah, thank you, Andre. I think many of us on this call can also relate to you and Juana in the sense that many of us didn't know what we wanted to study. Somehow throughout our tries that we kind of figured out, like, this is what I want to do. And many on this call are actually big advocates of mental health. So I'm pretty sure you're going to have a lot of questions soon. Antonella, would you like to close us off for this first round?
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. There's my dog and the cat, and they did the thing.
No worries.
Hi, everyone. My name is Antonella de la Torre Marcenaro. My pronouns are they and she, or ella and ella. I feel like it's important to name my positionality and how I show up in spaces. I'm a light-skinned, queer, often white assumed Latina. I didn't become Latina until I was here in the United States. I immigrated from Lima, Peru, in Quechua and Wari land. I'm a child.
Oh no, it looks like...
Oh, okay. Am I cutting off?
Sorry. Yeah, Antonella, yeah.
I live in the forest. That's what happens. Okay, am I back?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm neurodivergent, able-bodied for now, and right now my access needs are being met. And I'm the founder of Puentes. It's a bilingual English and Spanish nature immersion program for young adults ages 18 to 24 that identify as BIPOC and or Latinx. And our mission is to strengthen connections with the natural world, with community, and with oneself. So a lot of resonance, Andre, with and it's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm happy to be here. And did I see myself doing this? No, I don't, not at all. I moved around a lot and didn't even think that college was an option for me. I wasn't documented here until like right before I turned 18. So that was like just part of my upbringing. And somehow I fell into this just from falling in love with being outdoors and finding a lot of healing for myself. So that's kind of how I got into this field.
Yeah, thank you, Antonella, for answering the question. I'll pass it along to my co-host Jojo so that he can say the next question.
And for our next question, how did you choose this job and what stood out to you?
And this time we can go with Andre being the first, and then Antonella, and then Juana.
Well, how did I choose this job? I guess sometimes I consider that it chose me. But really, I was doing some studying or watching YouTube videos or reading something, and this guy was talking about how to figure out what you want to do with your life. And they told me to think about what I would do for work if I didn't need money. So I sat with that question and I meditated on that question for quite some time. And I realized that I would probably have some type of nonprofit or organization offering services to inner city youth. I didn't know that I wanted to do meditation at the time. But once I got clear on what I would do if I didn't need money, then I just started working on it. So that's kind of how I chose my job. And what stood out to me, the main thing that stood out to me is there wasn't a lot of Black males in the mental health sector. There was a lack of representation there, and I felt like I could fill in that void. So I felt like there was a need for what I was doing. What my day-to-day looks like is pretty full. As the founder of a startup nonprofit, I pretty much wear all the hats. The founder, I'm the executive director, program manager, fundraising director. So I pretty much wear all of those hats. So on a regular day, I could be teaching a meditation class. I could be creating some programming. I could be doing some bookkeeping, operations type stuff. So I really wear a lot of hats. But one thing I can say is I have a lot of flexibility. I don't work a 9 to 5. So I work all the time, but on my own time. I hope that answer was useful.
It definitely does. Thank you, Andre. I personally forgot the order. So I think it was Antonella.
Yes, it was me. So the question again is, how did I choose this job, right? And what stood out to me?
Mm-hmm.
So I chose this mostly because I was seeing a lot of things missing when I was, starting to do backpacking or camping trips and things like that. My family there were like two sides in my community, and my family would be like, why would you want to do that? Like, we worked outdoors so that you could have a better life, like, what are you doing? And there's like always like I know it's too cold, or I don't know what to do. But then there was also the other side of like, I would try to do that if I had the gear, if I had the knowledge of how to do it, of where to go, if I had the time to take off from work, if I had the money. So all of these things that I was noticing missing, and becoming involved with, organizations like Latino Outdoors, and just seeing how there were these one-off trips, but nothing that really cultivated community over a long period of time. So I decided to take a big risk and apply for grants, and I'm piloting the program this year. So what my day-to-day looks like as the founder and director, everything, of a co-instructor too of this pilot program, it really depends. So I'm in administrative phases right now. So what I'm learning a lot of is how to, or I'm just going to say, is like work the system from the inside, kind of like learn the language and learn the tools of how things function for like folks that make a lot of money, and channel that into trying to serve my community and people that I really care about. And also in that process of my learning, sharing my knowledge with folks in my community. So it's a lot of resource sharing, a lot of patience with myself and my own learning, and a lot of humility. But yeah, I also don't work a 9-to-5. I try to keep some structure, but I make space to go walk in the woods. I have the privilege of living pretty close to the forest. So anytime I get too computered out, I'm like, okay, gotta go. Yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but that's me.
No, it definitely does, Antonella. I think you and Andre really brought up a really good point of being transparent and being okay with not having all the answers. Many of the attendees on this call are teenagers, and society tends to put this label on you of like, you need to know what you want to study by the age of 18. And in reality, it's not true. You can decide that this is something that you like, but down the path, what you like might change. So thank you, Antonella and Andre, for sharing your stories. Juana?
Yes, thank you. I resonate a lot with what Antonella and Andre had to say. For me, I guess it kind of picked me, but also it was kind of like my curiosity. When I migrated to the United States, I was also illegal at that time, and like many kids, they had to go because their parents had told them that they had to go, right? So for me, this questioning came when I had to leave. And my question was, why does my country can't sustain me? Why can't I stay home? Why can my country provide all the things that I want to do, And so for me, that was always my questioning, and kind of like the push factor for me to do whatever I could to answer my own question, because it was more like an existent question every day, why am I here? Why do I have to learn a new language, etc. And I didn't know anything about natural resources or backpacking, hiking, none of that, So my first encounter with natural resources or the outdoors per se, it was in high school, just like you guys. I was just, minding my own business, and there's this guy with a ponytail and smoky bear coming along, and I'm like, what is that? What is that? And that person, explained a little bit about, what it was. And I was lucky enough that in the high school I was going to, they had a leadership program, and they were choosing young people to go to Sacramento and teach kids about fire safety and other things. And my teacher enrolled me in that. And I was like, but I don't even speak that good English. Like I was traumatized, like I'm gonna have to talk to people about this in English, And so that kind of pushed me over the edge of like getting out of my comfort zone, because, being from another country in this big country, sometimes it's really intimidating. And for me, that was the first step in that. And, you know, I never really thought about being in the Forest Service because, like Antonella said, my parents are farm workers. They work in the farms, picking oranges, grapes, and whatever. And when I came home, oh yeah, by the way, you know, I'm gonna go camp and I'm gonna sleep in the floor. And my dad is like, are you out of your mind? You know, like, you're telling me you're gonna go over there and sleep in the floor and go to the bathroom, you know, like in Mexico, out there digging a hole and doing all these things. You're telling me that's what you want to do, you know? And so for them, it was kind of stressful to think that that's actually what I wanted to do after college. And to me, I was passionate about it because it was coming back to my community, farm working community that didn't know about natural resources, but yet we live 30 minutes away from Sequoia National Park and 2 hours from Yosemite. And so for me, it was really something that I wanted to do. And I never thought that that would lead me to answer my own question later on in this career.
Yeah, thank you, Juana. And I love to hear that people like really follow what they are passionate about. I know having immigrant parents or parents of color is difficult and can be a bit stressful, wanting to make sure that they're part of you. And I think Juana brought up a really good point of many people who come from untapped cities like Oakland, East Palo Alto, since those are the two that come to mind right now. Many of our families and parents work in the field or do these jobs, so the thought of doing it as a leisure, for them it might be hard to kind of understand. So thank you. So that wraps up our second no. Sorry. Sorry, Andre, if you want to close us off.
Yeah, I think we're breaking up a little bit. Did we move into another question?
Yeah, sorry. So the next question is, how has your background and experience influenced your work? So we'll go with Andre, Antonella, and then Juana.
Okay, thank you. Great question. I think my background influenced everything about why I do the work that I do. Just my upbringing in the inner city, kind of seeing all the struggles that we go through. And, just my time as a youth seeking help for my mental health struggles, just the lack of representation in the mental health field. I think all of that has played a major role in the work that I would do. So I would say that my background experience, my childhood, played a major impact on the reason why I'm doing the work that I'm doing today.
Thank you. Antonella?
So my background and how it influences the work that I do. Yeah, my background had a lot of pain and trauma. I'm just gonna name it. And the healing, I think I mentioned this earlier, that I was able to find through connecting with land and connecting with people in the context of connecting with land, just did something. I don't know exactly what, but that's definitely the driving force and the inspiration to do what I do, because in the last 10 years that I've been working as a outdoor educator, also like in more of the science realm of things as well, and also just nature connection facilitator, I see these things click in folks, and that just re-inspires me every single time. I'm like, oh yeah, this is, I see it and I feel it. And it's hard to put into words, but my background is just what it's allowing me to show up authentically and vulnerably. Is that a word? Vulnerably? Vulnerablemente, into spaces that really, where that authenticity can help something bigger grow. Yeah.
Thank you. I think you and Andre touched on just being authentic and true to yourself. I know now in society it's very hard to try to be yourself with like social media and all this other stuff, but honestly, just staying true to your roots is definitely helpful. Juana?
Well, for me, it has had a lot of influence just because in the agency that I work for has been non-traditionally diverse. So a lot of the times when I show up for meetings, I'm usually the only diverse person in the room. To me, since I got engaged with this program that I used to be part of, Generation Green in Central California, it had been a lot about being at the table, being able to make decisions that are going to affect the community that we're from. I'll give you an example. The Forest Service has a 15-year plan, for the future, and a lot of the times the people that are able to make changes to that rule, that law, have to be in the table to say, why is it important to, take into consideration the communities, the farm working communities, the people of color, that the needs that we have sometimes are different, and how to take that into consideration. And a lot of the times at that table, there's zero diversity. Sometimes at that table is usually white male, particularly probably in almost time for retirement. And they're the ones that are putting together this regulation so that me and you and all our families and everybody that loves the outdoors are gonna have to live with that. And I'm really proud to say that one of the drivers that make me get up and go to work is I want to be that voice in that table. Because yes, we can, go and vote and do all these things, but also if you're not in the table, you cannot voice the concerns and the desires of the people that you would like to serve. So in that case, we were able to take about 15 young Latinos and also Native Americans, African Americans to that table and flew them all the way to Washington, D.C. to be part of that. It wasn't easy because they will not take our questions. They will not take our comments easily because it was hard to hear that we were at the table. And a lot of the time, sometimes it takes a bold movement, even to walk out of those meetings, to make a statement that we're there not to be no token. We're there to make a decision. We're there to voice our opinions. And that's what has got me into this. And now in the position I'm in, I'm able to not only do that for the people in the United States, but currently we're helping other countries that are very poor, and I just came back from Dominican Republic, where young people, Haitian people, are experiencing some of the difficulties that maybe some immigrant people are facing here in the US as well. And so that's what drives me. I think my background, my experiences as a young woman and immigrant and farm worker makes me who I am and makes me passionate to voice those voices at the table where I go. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think you touched on a very important and sad at the same time, the fact that the outdoors has been traditionally white, but thankfully, more and more people of color are realizing that these spaces are our spaces. And again, thank you for for all three of you for being on this call and showing our youth that, yes, it's not easy, but it's definitely not impossible. So thank you.
And for the next question, how do we ensure that everyone has a voice in the conversation and feels represented? And what do you think needs to happen? And we'll do the same order.
And I know this is a pretty loaded question, so if you want to take a couple of seconds to kind of think, and then we'll start.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would have a pretty short but sweet answer to this. How do we ensure everyone has a voice in the conversation as far as outdoors? Well, I think it's kind of up to us, the adults, because it's important for us to we have to create more leaders and teachers and mentors that understand the benefits of nature and being connected to the natural elements of the world. If we can provide access to information to the youth, like you all that are here today, and have that information being presented by people the listeners can relate to, I think that's very important in helping the youth understand the connection between nature. And then just more education, like in reality, at some point, all of our ancestors were very connected to nature as far as natural practices of medicine, natural ways of religion and spirituality. So if we have more teachers that understand these things and can teach the youth about these things, then I think we'll have a better voice. But right now, when we think of nature and spending time in nature, it's kind of like considered a white thing. But I feel like with more education, we can teach our people that at one time we were very, very connected to nature.
Thank you, Andre. Antonella?
I also, if I may, can I add something? Andre, you just brought something up in my mind. Just, can I add something to what you just said?
Sure. Yeah,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just in regards to and then I'll answer the question for real. But how our ancestors at one point being very connected with nature, and you'll probably hear my dog right now. And also, like, currently, right now, there are Black, Indigenous, and people of color that are still very connected to nature, working outdoors, going hiking, recreating, all of those things. So I think it's important to notice how the outdoors are white, but from like a visible perspective and like dominant access points, I guess. Like, but I think it's important to know that like people are out there, people of color, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, Latinx people, we're doing it already. And then ensuring that all voices are heard. I think we can't ensure anything. Like on a personal level, we can educate, or I'm just going to speak from the I can educate myself about myself and how I navigate in the world, and learn how and who I can advocate for when those voices aren't present. Asking myself who's missing from this conversation, much like Juana was mentioning earlier, looking around, being like, okay, there are people missing at this table. And I feel like just from like a doable level, forging meaningful friendships that are actually based in authenticity and trust, that is one of the best ways that we can learn about one another and about ourselves and be better advocates. On a systemic level, we would have to do a whole nother panel, but on a systemic level, I think it gets complicated because many of us have less access to positions of power. And for example, a lot of the things that require us to, make changes on systemic levels, sometimes that's not as easy. So I would say, like, starting here, and then if we do have connects, if we are starting institutions, we got to start them with
No, thank you. And I think, just to add one thing to what you mentioned, many people think that you have to do this big old change, but I know people have heard this saying before, but it's true. Like, all you have to do is start in your own dining table, and from there, that person can talk to someone else, and then it's an ongoing. So thank you, Antonella. Juana?
See, I will follow up with that too, is because one of the greatest change you can do is individually. You have to lead by example, and you really have to, be authentic with yourself. Like, what is it that you can do at the level that you're at? Because a lot of the times, as young people, you think, oh, I can do anything. I'm not a leader, but in reality, you are. Wherever, at what level you are leading somebody, because somebody's looking at you. Somebody's always looking at you, either your little brother, your little cousin. You never know who's actually paying attention to the actions that you do. And I will share one experience from this Haitian student from Dominican Republic. She said, they have a lot of issues with the quality of water, even to drink water. So, when you're in a vision that you can't do much, and you're in this corruption, and you are in this city that, might eat you alive, per se, a lot of people lose faith. So, but she kept going by saying, you know what, let's pick up the trash. Because a lot of people say, no, I pick it up and the other person throws it again. But can you imagine if everybody had the same mind? Oh, I can't make a difference, so I'm just gonna keep throwing trash. It will multiply in millions and millions of trash. So she was saying that change is you by the actions that you make. So pick wisely. What actions do you wanna do for yourself? And it's like a ripple effect. It's like the ocean, right? The ocean is not just the ocean as a whole, but the little drops of water that is in it as well.
Thank you, Juana. So that officially wraps up the questions that we have. We do have a couple more minutes, and I do want to open it up to our attendees. Please feel free to ask a question for all the speakers, or if you have one specific, please make sure to mention who this question is for. If you feel more comfortable, you can write down your question in the chat box, and either Jojo or myself will read the question for you.
Please do ask questions. If not, I'm going to start asking questions to you. I do have questions.
Well, it looks like they want you to ask questions because I'm not seeing one.
Awesome. I would like to know, why do you join Canopy? Why does it make you want to be part of it? Like, what is some of the things that you do in Canopy that makes you feel happy or makes you come back?
Is it okay if I answer this one? My name is Keiki Lenny. My bad, I was running a little bit late because I was at track practice. But the reason why I joined Canopy was because of the fact that, like, I'm from East Palo Alto. Like, I grew up in the direct result of environmental racism. And because of that, like growing up around that, like constantly having family members that like struggle with asthma or that struggled like when it came to like different types of sicknesses as well, because there weren't like a lot of grocery stores and stuff like that growing up around here. So it's kind of like growing up in a food desert as well. And so that's why I joined Canopy, because like I truly want to improve the living standards of not just myself, but also my whole community, because I haven't made it yet until everybody else around me has made it. So yeah, thank you for asking that question.
Recorded.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kiki. And I see Paco. You want to answer that too, Paco?
I know Paco has Wi-Fi issues. In the meantime, is there another tough that would like to answer? Jojo.
Here, Jojo.
I'd also like to expand on what Lenny said about helping out the community and that she hasn't made it if everyone else hasn't made it. I find that very admirable because for me, myself, I find it really hard to, rely on myself and focus on what matters to me and my mental health. So in order for me to do that, I think being with Canopy really helps because here we focus on not just the environment, helping our community, but also ourselves. Here in Canopy, we build like a little family type of aspect, and we built like a really strong community here, and we all get along, and we all like have a sense of belonging here, and I really enjoy that because having people that you can really connect with is honestly like one of the best feelings ever because it makes you feel less alone and like you really know that there's people that got your back and people that support what you do and just surrounding yourself with the people that have the same type of mission as you, such as helping out the community, giving back, and fighting environmental racism, as she said. Because yeah, I myself here also grew up in East Palo Alto, and my mom suffers from asthma, and like when I look back on it, I kind of realize I kind of realize like why she suffers from that, and that's from like, we have a lack of resources, we have not that many trees around for us to have good oxygen. There's a lot of industrialization around here, and there's so many like cars and highways that just cut right through our city. Like it kind of like just makes me want to get up and do something about it because I'm not really the type of person to just have other people do things for me. Personally, I like to stand up and do things myself because my mom always used to tell me if you want a job done, job done right, then do it yourself because people aren't gonna do things for you, and you just gotta stand up and surround yourself with the type of people that do want to stand up.
Thank you, Jojo, for that.
So I do want to be respectful of our speakers' time. So I do highly encourage you to ask questions. They all come from different backgrounds and they are doing wonderful stuff. So please feel free to drop in your questions.
Can I ask a question? I guess since the youth don't have questions, I guess I could pose a question.
Yeah.
Has anybody on this panel ever meditated before? Angel, looks like we've got a few hands.
What was the question, Andre? It cut off for me a little bit.
Okay, I was asking if anybody on the panel has meditated before. Okay, we got some hands. Okay, can anybody tell me maybe a benefit that you receive from meditating? Anybody?
I can go. For me, I first started meditating when I was in 6th grade during middle school. To give you some background, I to give you some background, I live in San Jose, but I come here to school in East Palo Alto. And so, what my middle school would do is that before PE, like we'd always have this little meditation for like 30 minutes, and we'd go out to PE, right? Do whatever you have to do, go play soccer, run a mile, whatever. But they always encourage us to meditate because like they usually give us a lot of work, and they'd always want us to like take care of ourselves. So they'd offer the choice if we want to meditate, and like they'd ask us if like to at least try it once. And for me, like I don't know, it felt really cool. Like it was like a really good way to like relax and like de-stress myself and like just like just like kind of like reflect upon myself, like how am I doing? And, like it was kind of like a me moment, like it was just like me talking to myself, like checking in how I really am. It was like, yeah, it was like not having to put on a face and like me being like who I really am. And for me, it was really cool to like do that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And yes, meditation is a great way to release stress and relax. Growing up in the inner city, or just really just in America in general, is very stressful. I think stress is like the #1 killer. So learning how to relax and learning how to manage your stress is a tool or a skill that you definitely want to develop. I don't know how much time we have, but I would love to maybe lead you all through maybe like a 2 or 3 minute meditation. That's okay.
Yeah, for sure. We got 10 minutes, so.
Okay, so this will just be like a 2 or 3 minute sweet meditation. And a lot of times in our community, we think of meditation as mysterious or weird. But all we're really doing is learning how to relax with intention. As I told you, stress is the #1 killer in America. So you want to learn how to relax. So we're going to meditate, but technically, we're just going to relax for a moment. So I'm going to kind of explain what we're going to do, and then we'll do it. So all I want you to do is see how relaxed you can get in a couple of minutes just by closing your eyes, going within yourself and focusing on your breath. So you're just going to be noticing how it feels to breathe as you inhale and exhale. And as you close your eyes and focus on your breath, your mind and your body is going to naturally relax. So we're going to just do a quick 2-minute meditation. And your goal is to try to get yourself as relaxed as you can in about 2 minutes. So we'll go ahead and begin. I want everybody to come into any grounding position that's comfortable for you. If you're sitting up in a chair, maybe you want to sit up nice and tall with a straight spine. And just feel your feet flat on the floor. Just notice how it feels to be supported by the chair or whatever you're sitting on. And if you're in a safe space, I want you to close your eyes and just begin to notice how it feels to breathe. So as you inhale, notice the air filling your lungs. As you exhale, just notice how it feels to release the breath. And just continue breathing slowly and deeply, allowing your mind and your body to become more and more relaxed with every inhale and exhale. Now, we're going to take 3 deep grounding breaths. So on your next exhale, I want you to release all the air out of your lungs. Now taking a deep inhale through the nose and exhaling out of your mouth. Let's do that again. Taking a deep inhale of peace of mind. And exhaling out of the mouth any stress, anxiety, low vibrations you may have been holding on to. Let's do that one more time. Deep inhale of peace of mind. Suspend your breath at the top of the lungs, so holding your breath, being present, any sounds, sensations that you feel, hold the breath. And exhale forcefully out of the mouth. Now I just want you to return to your normal breathing. Inhaling slowly and deeply. Just noticing how you feel. I'm going to ring my bell and hopefully it plays through Zoom. But I want you to hold on to the sound of the bell as long as you can. And when you can no longer hear the bell, you can open your eyes, come back to your body. Thank you all for meditating with me today. Namaste. Good job.
Thank you, Andre. I personally needed that, so thank you. I did see a question that came into the chat, and I think it flows perfectly with what Andre helped us lead with the meditation. Mia has a question of, how do you all incorporate self-care into your schedules?
Well, I guess I could answer that question first. Well, I did the wonderful thing of making self-care my job. Just having a troubled childhood and having to overcome a lot of childhood trauma, I spent a lot of my time focusing on healing and learning how to heal and learning all these different modalities. So I was able to create that as my job. So my job is self-care. I have to learn how to meditate. I have to practice meditation. I have to learn about holistic wellness practices as far as healing. So my self-care is my job, and my job is my life and my purpose. So it's all wrapped up together. So I don't have to try to incorporate self-care. My life is self-care. So, but I would advise you all, everybody's not going to be, I guess, doing what I do. I would advise you to try to set up some type of routine. As far as when you're thinking of self-care, you want to think of things that you love to do. Maybe it's playing a video game. Maybe it's going for a walk in the park. Maybe it's working out. You want to identify the things that you love to do that make you feel good, and then like schedule those things into your life. That would be my advice for people who want to incorporate more self-care into their schedule.
Thank you. If you want, I can answer that a little bit too. You know, being a single mom with kids running around, you know, plus work, sometimes it's kind of difficult. But one of the things that I love to do is when I get a chance to take some time in, I love to go to Sweat Lodge. You know, it was introduced to me by Native friends, and one of the things that I love is going to the Sweat Lodge because it makes me feel like I go back to the womb of my mother. And in that space, it makes me feel safe, but at the same time, it makes me relax. And it's wonderful because, you know, it's hot and you receive medicine from the different plants that the you know, the people that usually lead the Sweat Lodges, you know, put together for you. And those are some of the things that renew my soul, renew my, you know, just everything that I am. And I really like to do that as often as I can, so that I can, you know, kind of ground myself, not only to do self-care, but also ground myself as to who I am and what is important to me and what makes me me, you know. And so that's one of the things I love to do. Thank you.
I can answer real quick too. For me, my self-care, I see it very simply. I try not to get too complicated because what works for me is simple. So I just make sure that I eat things that my body likes. I try to eat regularly. I know for me that has been a journey, and just like eating breakfast has become like the way that I start my day, kind of a practice. I make sure that I exercise a little bit, even if it's just 10 minutes, going for a walk or something like that, or even with injuries too, doing something active. Again, keeping it simple. I like to find spots where the sun is when the sun is out and just let it happen to me. And singing is something that also brings me joy and lights up my heart. So those little simple things, I think starting small is really important to incorporating self-care.
Thank you, everyone. I think we have time for one more question. Andre,
Yeah, I did want to say something. There was a question I think that you all sent me that I guess we didn't ask, and I was kind of excited to answer it. So I was wondering if I could just touch on it for a second. There was a question is what advice would you give to someone who is unsure about their future career? And I would say, don't focus on finding a career. Most people, when they're finding a career, they're looking for something that's going to make them the most money. I would advise you to focus on figuring out what you love to do. Once you figure out what you love to do, then find or create a career that closely aligns with the thing you love. For example, if you love playing video games all day, then it might be good for you to maybe become a video game developer. But then you're developing video games and you're playing video games all day. It sounds like a dream to a person who loves video games. So don't focus on finding a career, figure out what you love to do, and then find a career that aligns with the thing that you love. So.
That's a great question, Andre, and answers. I would say the only thing I will advise you is, like Andre said, just following on what he says. Do what you're passionate about, but also don't limit yourself. If you haven't done something and you're wondering about it, go do it. I mean, I had to wait until I was 25, 29, around that, to really go out and backpack by myself, because I was too scared, to do it. Because it's like Antonella said, I didn't know what year to take. I didn't know what to do. So find your information and do it. Don't limit yourself by being comfortable, or don't limit yourself by fear. Don't do that, because you might miss something that you're super passionate about. So I would say try new things, investigate things. If you're curious about something and you don't know how to do it, ask somebody that maybe has done it.
I know we're out of time, but I want to add just one thing to that I think is really important, is the element of asking for support when you need it and when you want it. And I think asking for help is something that can be really hard, especially coming from a family or a culture that has had to surpass a lot of obstacles. So knowing who your people are, where your support network is, and being vulnerable and asking for support when you need it. You never know who's going to come along the way and really to open up some windows and doors for you.
Thank you. And I think that's a perfect note to end on, in the sense that be comfortable with asking for help. I know many of us is something that we all struggle with, but just ask for help, and people are more than willing to help you. And I know that this session or the series was on green careers, and literally it can be anything. Just as Andre mentioned, if you want to go into video gaming, that can also work as a green career. So do not limit yourself to the typical green fields that are out there. With that being said, thank you again, Andre, Antonella, and Juana, for taking the time and coming and speaking with us. everyone on this call, please show some love and support by either unmuting and thanking the speakers or saying it in the chat box. Again, thank you everyone, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antonella. Is this everyone on the call, Tufts?
Yeah, Juanita.
Bye,
I have
Juanita.
a surprise.
Wait, it's still recording. Stop.
Nah.